Good morning. I'm Charles Edwards, Interim News Director for WABE 90.1. And we'd like to welcome our viewers to the Atlanta Press Club Loudermilk Young Debate Series originating from the Public Broadcasting Atlanta studios. This is the runoff debate between the Republican candidates for Cobb County Commission District 1. Now let's meet the candidates, and they are in alphabetical order. Bill Byrne, he's a former Cobb County Commission chair, and Bob Weatherford, a former councilman from the city of Ackworth. Now let's meet our panelists. First, Pete Combs. He's an award-winning reporter for WSB Radio. Next, Janelle Davis. She's a reporter for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. And Jonathan Shapiro covers state and local government for WABE 90.1. Today's program will consist of 3 rounds, and for more information on the rules for each round, you can visit Atlanta Press Club's website, which is atlantapressclub.org. And now let's get started. We'll begin the program with our panel asking a question to each candidate. Now the candidates will have 60 seconds to answer each question, and Pete Combs will ask the first question to Bob Weatherford.
Thanks, Charles. Mr. Weatherford, you're a former police officer, and yet the Fraternal Order of Police has endorsed your opponent in the race for Post 1 on the County Board of Commissioners. The FOP cited your relationship with County Chairman Tim Lee as the main reason for that. I assume you disagree with that, and I wonder why.
Well, I disagree that the relationship that I have with Chairman Tim Lee, which is a friendly relationship and a friendship, has anything to do with the way I would conduct myself as county commissioner. The FOP has had some issues in the past, and I think most of us will agree that they're underfunded, understaffed, and there's some work that needs to be done there. I plan to do that when elected. Their main concern was the fact that they wanted someone that was not currently in favor of some of the things that the Chamber and Tim Lee wanted to do. I disagree with that in that my #1 priority is and always has been and will be public safety. Having spent 25 years as a public servant and law enforcement, I believe I understand it from the inside out, from the bottom up, and I can be that candidate that can promote public safety in Cobb and know their issues and what their needs are.
And now Janelle Davis will ask a question to Bill Byrne.
Mr. Byrne, you've been critical of Cobb Chairman Tim Lee and his close ties to the Chamber and to the business community. What are your thoughts on this kind of relationship between business and government, and how closely should the two work?
Well, I think that relationship, Janelle, is extremely important, particularly in a growing community within our region. Each has a specific role. It's when one tries to take the influence over another that I have a real problem with it. Board of Commissioners in any county, and Cobb's no different, is required to provide the necessary policies with the #1 priority being public safety. The primary responsibility of any chamber, including Cobb's chamber, is to bring new businesses into our community and to help grow our economy. When I have the problems that I see in Cobb County is when the leadership of the Chamber of Commerce is trying to impact the policies and the candidates who are at the commission level. When they invest millions of dollars into the community, that's one thing. When they invest hundreds of thousands of dollars into campaigns to have the influence, that's another, and that's what I oppose.
And that concludes our first round. In the second round, each candidate asks a question to their opponent. Each candidate will have 30 seconds to ask a question, 60 seconds to respond, and 30 seconds for a rebuttal. And Bill Byrne, you get the first question.
Thank you. Bob, I have a real concern about BRT, as you know. And Chairman Tim Lee and the leaders of the Chamber of Commerce, who are big supporters of you, are supporting the approval of the bus rapid transit proposal from Midtown Atlanta to Kennesaw. Once this is operational, the BRT, just like Cobb's CCT, will require a 60% operational subsidy. We spent $12 million of Cobb taxpayers' money subsidizing CCT last year. Where is this money going to come from to subsidize the BRT proposal?
Well, I believe that Cobb, like most every metro county, is in need of some type of public transportation. What the answer is, what the proper pieces of the puzzle are, but we have to start somewhere. You yourself proposed one when you were chairman, And if we had probably done that then, we wouldn't be discussing this today. But there's some kind of need of transportation. They're all completely part of a puzzle. Part of that puzzle is along with the $1 billion worth of investment that was already planned before the Braves came to Cobb. Interchanges of diamond interchange, reversible lanes, other types of things. So I'm not sure what the answer is. I support whatever is funded properly and what the people would ride, and it would be a financial plan that would allow it to have less strain on the county budget.
Bill, you've got an opportunity for 30 seconds to rebut if you want to use it.
Well, that didn't answer my question. I asked you, where does the money come from for the subsidy for operational purposes? We spent $12 million subsidizing CCT. That's normal. Any bus transit program requires a 60% subsidy for operational purposes. The only source of revenues for those kinds of money is taxes, property taxes, and with a BRT coming to Cobb, you can expect a massive increase in property taxes to operate it, and I'm opposed to that.
And now, Bob Weatherford, it's your turn to ask Bill Byrne a question.
Mr. Byrne, as I stated earlier, you actually proposed a public transit when you were chairman, and you put it on the SPLOS that failed. You also proposed another SPLOS that failed. We and all the voters in Cobb County realize there is need for some type of public transit. We need some type of transportation that would be viable and have the financial plan necessary to support it. All I've heard from you is no on this, no on that. I'd like to know what you would support in order to work on public transportation in Cobb County.
Well, I did in 1998 propose a rail system in Cobb County, and it fundamentally was a rail system in this same corridor. But it provided connectivity to two employment centers, and that was the Town Center area and the Cumberland Galleria area. The voters said absolutely not. If you don't learn from your experiences, then you're going to stay stupid. That was a comment my dad always had to me. I learned from that Cobb County taxpayers and voters did not want transit in that corridor. Haven't talked about it or proposed it since. I was opposed to the T-SPLOS. I'm opposed to the BRT. And the fundamental reason for this, and this is one thing that I'll guarantee you 99% of Cobb residents don't know. We have 3 transit systems in Cobb County. Greta, GRTA, MARTA is already in Cobb County, and CCT. We need to coordinate better between the 3 to provide the services necessary.
Time. Bob Weatherford, you've got 30 seconds for rebuttal if you want to use it.
Well, again, I don't believe you answered the question. There is a need for some type of transportation plan in Cobb County with all the growth that we have. It's completely different now than it was 15 years ago. We need to have some plan, and saying no to every plan is not the answer. We have to start somewhere, and that somewhere needs to be with a plan that we can use for the future that will move and provide transportation in a financially viable way to all of Cobb County.
And if you're just joining us, this is the runoff debate between the Republican candidates for Cobb County Commission District 1. We'll now go to the final round, and in this round, the panelists will take turn asking questions to the candidates of their choice until we run out of time. And as moderator, I'll determine if a rebuttal is appropriate. And Jonathan Shapiro with WABE, you get the first question.
Mr. Weatherford, there's been much criticism about the manner in which the commission approved the Braves deal. If you were on the commission, what would you have done different?
The Cobb County Board of Commissioners have worked hard and diligently. Neither Bill or I were part of that process, and the only thing that I would have done different was try to offer some different transparency if possible to make sure that everybody was informed in an appropriate manner. I believe they tried to do that. I believe the concept that they used and the perception that others have seen from that is it was not done. I know, having been on the Board of Aldermen in Ackworth for 12 years, that some things you have to do in quiet or you will not get them done. I applaud them for their efforts. I would have supported it at 100%. My job as county commissioner will make sure that taxpayers' interests are are protected and that we spend what we say we're going to spend, and it allows economic growth in that area that will benefit all of Cobb County.
Bill Byrne, you were also not on the commission when that vote was taking place about the Braves Stadium. I'll give you an opportunity to talk about what you may have done differently if you were on that commission.
Yeah, I would have handled it totally different. I've been in a very, very similar situation. And one of the things I would have insisted on if I had been chairman is that the district commissioner be a part of all meetings from the very beginning and coordinate with the other district commissioners on a continuing basis so they know through the process, in this case almost 6 months, what was going on, and not be blindsided and have 2 weeks to make a decision on a program of this magnitude.
And our next question comes from Pete Combs of WSB Radio.
Thanks. I'd like to talk a little bit more about the stadium. The perception, Mr. Byrne, in the land deal for the Braves is now done. The stadium is going to be built. The Braves are coming to the Cumberland Mall area. However, there are still a lot of concerns about public safety. How will the Braves Stadium impact public safety throughout Cobb County, and what do you plan to do to improve it?
Well, I think you raised the number one question that I have for the Board of Commissioners, and I am very, very disappointed in Chairman Tim Lee and his negotiations with the Atlanta Braves. He had the opportunity to deal with the issue from a position of strength. He should have negotiated with the Atlanta Braves and say to them, I want 10 acres for public safety use if you want to come to Cobb. I want the $5.5 million necessary to build a precinct if you want to come to Cobb. I want the $3.5 million necessary to build a fire station in Cobb. That's a win-win. The Atlanta Braves then could market to their ticket holders that they have a public safety presence at the front door, and the Board of Commissioners could have marketed to all the residents of Cobb that public safety is indeed our number one priority and we're dealing with it. He didn't. I will.
And the next question comes from Janelle Davis of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution.
Switching gears a little bit, gentlemen. Cobb recently decided to hire an outside lobbyist to intervene on the county's behalf. This job had previously been done by a member of the county staff. Is this something that you would have voted to spend money on, and is this a necessary expense for the county?
Who would you want to direct that question to?
Let's start with Mr. Weatherford if we can.
Okay,
Yes.
Bob Weatherford.
Thank you. That question was posed a few months ago, and I did a little research into it. The Cobb County is a member of the ACCG, which is the Association of County Commissioners of Georgia, and they provide lobbying efforts at the state level. If this particular lobbying agreement had only included the state level, I would have been opposed to it. But in fact, it is including, augmenting what the ACCG does for Cobb County, as well as on the federal level to try to get funds and necessary grants into Cobb County. There is a limit of 1 year, I believe, on the contract, a set payment, and I would have approved it for that reason, as long as there's a return on investment that exceeds what we pay in. But if it was only for state level, I would not have been for it.
Bill Byrne.
I was vehemently and continue to be very much opposed to that. What in the world do we need a lobbyist at 6 figures? The commission chairman, the county manager, and whatever department heads are necessary can coordinate all of our needs through local delegation for local needs. We have state representation with our Senate and with our representatives for state needs. And at the national level, to argue this as the justification for it, last time I looked, that's why we elected congressmen. We are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars as payback for political purposes.
And the next question in this round comes from WABE's Jonathan Shapiro.
The county is considering a new homestead option sales tax, a host tax. It's a 1% sales tax on everything sold in Cobb. It said it would eliminate the part of many homeowners' property tax bills that are directed in Cobb's general fund. What are your thoughts on a possible host tax in Cobb? This for Mr. Weatherford.
Thank you. A host tax, as you know, takes 80% and goes to reducing the property tax burden on homestead owners in Cobb, and 20% goes to the general fund. Many counties, as a matter of fact, I believe 153 or so out of the 159 have either a host or a local option sales tax. Cobb is one of the few that does not have it. A lot of cities have a local option sales tax. It's a way to increase revenue from all that participate in Cobb, that come through Cobb, that stay in Cobb, to reduce the burden on the homeowners of Cobb County. On the surface, I have not seen all the financial plans. On the surface, it appears to be a good possible alternative to lower property taxes while increasing the revenue of the general fund, thus allowing us to do certain things such as public safety. Again, I have not seen all the financial plans, but it's been the board of directors of the Georgia Municipal Association. It's been discussed for years, both Lost and Host, and I believe that it's been very viable and successful in many counties and cities.
Bill Byrne, your thoughts on a host tax?
Well, I'm very much opposed to it. People say that this is a tax on business. It's not true. It's a tax on consumers. It taxes everything you buy and need, and the biggest folks who pay the most on this are those who have the least. It's just another approach to get back into your wallet, and that's the mentality of this Board of Commissioners. And the only way you change that is change the leadership. It's another tax increase on those who can't afford it, and it is not a break for a property owner.
And the next question comes from WSB Radio's Pete Combs.
Thanks, Charles. Police retention, Mr. Weatherford, and I speak to you as a former police officer as well as an alderman in Ackworth. Police retention and recruitment in Cobb County, big concern. Police there are among the lowest compensated in the metro area. Officers have proposed increases in educational benefits, and the ability to take their patrol cars home as perhaps some ways to increase retention. What would you do to attract new officers, and perhaps even more importantly, what would you do to keep them once Cobb County hires them?
Well, recruiting, training, and maintaining a police force is one of the hardest things you can do. It takes many months, sometimes years, to train an officer. Sometimes out of 100 applicants, you might get 10 that pass the rigorous requirements to become a police officer, and we want it that way. Once they do that, they have to go through training. And they go through training, can take at least 6 months, and then a field training program. The problem we have in Cobb County is that we have neglected the police department and public safety for many years. It's a very simple thing to do sometimes. You increase their benefits, you increase their pay by looking at what surrounding agencies are paying. We did that in Ackworth for many years. We simply called around and said, what are you paying in a city our size? And we increased the salary to be above that. Take-home cars would be a retention problem and a target hardening problem, and I am a big proponent of take-home cars in Cobb County.
The next question comes from Janelle Davis from the AJC.
Mr. Byrne, the residents of Cobb County have previously had the opportunity to have you as their Cobb County chairman. What fresh perspective can you bring to this position if you were elected to this commission seat? And Mr. Weatherford, how do you think your style of leadership would differ from Mr. Byrne's?
Let's have Mr. Byrne go first and then Mr. Weatherford.
Well, I sincerely believe the key to a leadership group that has 5 people participating is, first thing you have to understand, you have to be able to count to 3. No one individual can mandate policy changes, accept or reject anything. I was very pleased in the 10 years that I served as chairman. We went back and statistically looked at this. 92% of the issues, excluding zonings, were a 5-0 or a unanimous decision. The ability to work with people supporting their proposals as to what they want to do and supposing mine as I propose them is the key for any leadership position. And I think having the ability and the dedication to working as a team either is going to define your success or the reason for your failure.
Bob Weatherford.
Well, when I was elected to City Council in 2001, the first thing that happened is I was sued by the Cobb County Board of Commissioners under Chairman Byrne because they didn't want to work with the cities. Now he wants to work with the cities. All the 6 mayors have endorsed me because they are familiar with his leadership style. I think this is where our biggest contrast is, that my leadership style is certainly collaborative, working with people, listening to all, having an open door policy. We have to do that among the Board of Commission, among the 6 cities, among all the various groups, civic, public schools, as well as the Chamber of Commerce. All of these entities have to work together to promote the quality of life in Cobb County, and I believe I have the leadership style that would promote that, working collaboratively together with them, and I have a 12-year record of doing that in the city of Ackworth and throughout Cobb County.
Bill Byrne, he talked about being sued while you were on the commission, so you have a chance to respond.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, Charles. You know, a statement is one thing, the facts are another. When the two don't agree, you have to clear it up. I did not sue the city of Ackworth. The lawsuit was brought by the district commissioner at that time, Billy Askey, because in negotiations with the city of Ackworth over a disagreement over property, they couldn't work it out. Once they requested the lawsuit, we obliged. That's working with the district commissioner, not in opposition to it. I didn't energize it, I supported it.
Bob Weatherford, Bill Byrne says that's an example of working with the commission.
So working with the district commissioners, not working with the cities that are part of the county. It was supported by the Cobb County chairman and the commission to sue the cities. I prefer negotiating, working it out, and coming to a compromise rather than wasting both taxpayer and city money on frivolous lawsuits.
All right, and our next question comes from WABE's Jonathan Shapiro.
Mr. Byrne, as chair of the commission in the early 90s, you supported what was called an anti-gay resolution that led to the county losing out on Olympic events in 1996. Do you regret that decision at all?
Well, I regret that happened, yes. That was brought forward, it was referred to as the famous resolution by a district commissioner by the name of Gordon Wysong. He brought it forward with the majority of the Board of Commissioners supporting that. I could not, as much as I tried, keeping it off of the agenda. When that came forward, it passed the Board of Commissioners. It was a resolution, not a policy statement. The response from the Olympic Committee was to